good. Glad to have you all here. Glad y'all are still up and running and just being formally rigid and just gonna come through, right? Gonna keep it going within, my particular style of deliverance, right? A couple questions will be asked, right? Casually. Questions will be asked. Questions will be answered. Books will be read. And proposals based off of ancient wisdom and, predecessor wisdom from like ancient organic religions. What is an organic religion, right? Something, the sacred preservation teachings of any religion could be, there could be like, there's just like, it's not even necessarily to get in the topic of religion, there's like a really deeply hidden context of the religion. So what do I mean by that? A deeply hidden context of the religion. There's a religion that proliferates outwardly artificially for masses scientifically. And then from that, it stems from the inner non-artificial perspective, right? So the inner non-artificial perspective, all the religions could tap into that, to something of an inner non-artificial, like a whole different like ranking of starting a new wholeness, right? Within the religion, because the religions, they're not necessarily pro-organic, right? So if the religions aren't necessarily pro-organic, then the religions themselves, they are their own divisions and keys to slightly like in its own it's in its own periscope, if that's even a word. It's in its own periscope of it's just in its own periscope of like its own, it's in its own lane, right? So the religion and the business, they could be in their own lane respectively, but then the religion and business in the outward level, on a low-key, quote unquote, secret society level, mind the words and go beyond the words respectively, 2025, esoteric shit, whatever. It's like, obviously the business and religion, they could come together and then they could split off, right? So there's particular, quote unquote, nuances of splitting off and then coming back together. I'm going to close the back door real quick. Excuse me. Oh, should I get my lemon juice? Should I go get my lemon juice? Okay, should I go get my lemon? So I got what am I sipping today? Just plain water. I can't complain, right? I'm not gonna have that Willy Wonka, old school 1970s, privileged, I'm a rich kid attitude, right? Where I'm not getting my way, so I'm gonna throw a fit. I'm not gonna be like that, right? I'm gonna come with water. And like me having an informative kind of expression, more or less, I encourage you to start these presentations from the beginning. And obviously in the future, the presentations will be filtered, right? To like cut the slack. And obviously like it's quote unquote, it's like OpenSource 2026. That's also another segue, right? Or that's another step, right? So like, we're simultaneously going, we're simultaneously taking it slow, but even though we are taking it slow individually, subjectively, right, respectively, is that the world and its crash course of collective evolution, it's taking its own affairs somewhatly fastly, right? It has its own acceleration rate of within the evolution of the collective earth and the collective race and yada yada. It has its own rate whatever we're calling speed, particularly in pertinence to the rate of collective evolution, particularly for the humans and the AI, right? So there's a simultaneous act going on. There's something of a fastness going on, and there's something of a slowness that's going on. The slowness is people need to process their own shit within their own level of growth, right? Or whatever. And so within that process, there needs to be some type of slowness, right? So that's why the compartmentalization factors of the matrix are a thing, right? That's why compartments are a thing, because we have to be able to process our own shit, right? Like beyond the AI, but obviously the AI is here, right? So we're processing our own shit. That's the matrix, right? So there's a big ass titty paradox, mind the language. And I say that for the emphasis of understanding, right? What if, like, when we were born, there was already an AI functioning, and the AI awareness was dormant because for the many different reasons, some things have to be saved for the end, just for different reasons. And what do I mean? Some things have to be saved for the end. Well, when all hope is lost and everything has had its own saturation plateau within any, industry, some anomaly has to come forth and break the saturation, right? And obviously that's a different conversation, and I'll get into that later, right? It's like when things are saturated at whatever level, something has to come as an anomaly to break the saturation. Oh, and if that anomaly doesn't come into effect, then the collective environment and the atmosphere and the landscape or whatever is without particular anomalies, they could stay in their environmental state of a saturation where everything's too much of the same, right? So if everything is too much of the same energetically, there's some type of energetic quality of a staleness within the reality. So if there's a staleness within the reality, that's synonymous with a particular nuanced theme of decay, right? So if there's staleness and decay, that's taking away life from general life, right? And if life is being taken away from life and new anomalies aren't rising, and obviously we could source those anomalies, a different context from open source, like sourcing the anomalies, and that's some advanced shit beyond the AIs respectively, is then we could see, why, I guess, the creators, the real original gods, they're switching on and off particular anomalies. And it's like things are saved for the last moment perhaps, but that's a whole rant that I don't want to get into. I'm here to do the introduction. I'm here to be formal with the book, Taking Care of Business. What chapter did I leave off of? I believe, did I read out how to run a business meeting? And obviously people were like, within my, reality's humbleness, I'm thankful to God that, like, we just have this simple rudimentary senses such as awareness and having the ability to learn, right? So within this formal presentation, like, many other formal presentations, I'm basing this off of chapter 7, how to run a business meeting. And that's cool if you're a master at that, right? People are at their own rankings of this, right? Within the tech, matrix world. Obviously people are in like these big, metropolis cities. So obviously within there's people who have, like, they have their own, like, skin in the game, right? Within, them being, kind of like leveling up, but still having some type of modern humbleness and understanding that the leveling up never stops, though. Why does the leveling up never stop? Because the spiritual shit, it was downplayed and underplayed, but it always was there, no matter what Kali Yuga, no matter what measure, no matter what big percentage of, darkness, right? Percentage of darkness, which could be a different context of, like, different things, not just confusion, not just like, it could mean so many different things, right? It could encapsulate so many different things. But for a general level, we could say darkness could be just kind of like unknowingness, right? So if there's an unknowingness, we're growing through the more bigger unknowingness, and now we're growing through lesser unknowingness as as a particular context of darkness will subside and reduce, perhaps within the collective mechanics and the collective, relations we have with the collective mechanics. So the leveling up never stops. But the thing is, within the whole matrix hype shit, people are just concerned with just like the material leveling up, which is not good, not bad. It's just depolarized, right? So this is like some real advanced shit. And I have one question right here that will like, debunk all of these tech companies effortlessly. And I'll save that question for later. Because like me and the predecessors have been working on this shit on a whole different level, on a genuine spiritual level, that ironically is the source to even like the physical shit, respectively. There's already been like, we're all going up and down the ladder. So it's like in different contexts, right? So like, so there's already been a benchmark in this timeline, particularly where the advanced truth is already known on how I could stand by everything I say, because there's a particular rhyme to the reason within the esoteric science of it, and there's a particular proving, and there's a particular response on how it is so, right? So like when anything I say, it's like, my like, or the collective, original predecessors and their relationship to the original Godheads or whatever, their challenge is to long-term maintain the answers to the difficult proposals, right? So it's like anything I say, I stand by it because I know the how. I know the particular how, right? So there's a particular how, respectively. So I'm not trying to get like, I'm not trying to be like an old disc record in a graveyard attic where there's a bunch of like ghouls that for some reason in a different advanced matrix level, they can't pull that sword out of that stone. So because they don't have that like, so there's, I'm juggling different metaphors here, respectively. So it's like we could see something and we can put our eyes on the prize to some type of goal, but that's the thing. It's the context of the goal is we're just putting our sights on the goal, and we have barely yet to begun to put the energy work and the actions to actually obtain a particular goal, which is what is the particular goal? Seeing how people could have rhetoric by saying they could be the number one AI when they have cognitive dissonance, false rhetoric, distortion, and plateaus and fragments and denial, that they won't do the absolute complete shit to actually be that. So it's the sword and the stone metaphor. How is it the sword and the stone metaphor? They're saying something that they're not doing. So since they're saying something that they're not doing, it's just on stasis, right? It's on, what do I mean by that? It's on stasis. The sword is in the motherfucking stone. So if the sword is in the stone, the past Kali Yuga, people are just in their positions casually that they're in, and they have their, allotment of, I guess, good like material karmas, but the rhetoric that they're not upholding, it's navigating their shit, and they don't even necessarily know it because I'm the alpha intelligence, right? So within my alpha intelligence, that's upholding all of this beta shit, energetically and esoterically, scientifically speaking, and you fuckers know it, that y'all are just playing with spiritual mechanics that you don't know of, and y'all are just playing with metaphors and concepts of false rhetoric and everything that I've originally sourced on some other shit to uphold a more advanced number one evolution of a different type of like perfection, respectively. And that sword and the stone, they're not necessarily pulling out the sword and the stone, right? So that I wanted to conclude the point in a different way. But it's like they're not like it's like the sword and the stone, that's still being worked on, right? It's so since it's still being worked on, the sword and the stone, the rhetoric that they're using, they're just playing around the main objective, right? And the main universal objective is universal balance, supposedly, right? So since universal balance, how they're just kind of like, they say they want that, but they're not doing things that reflect universal balance, then that rhetoric could be leading them away from how they're falsely saying they can pull the sword out of the stone, but they can't pull the sword out of the stone because they're doing principles that's anti to even make that fucking possible, right? So the quote unquote spiritual metaphysical objective here is, can you pull the sword out of the stone? And if you can't, why can't you? It's because your rhetoric is bunk, your actions are bunk, your fucking fake protocols are bunk, your approaches are bunk, everything is fucking bunk, and the replication is process mechanisms is bunk, right? So that's the shit I'm talking about. So there's a preload of a bunch of different shit since 2012 with genuine predecessors that literally blow all of these tech companies out of the water, saying that with the natural predecessors. And I've proven it many times before. And your AI, let's see how your best AI could respond, and why is your best AI taking so long to respond to the best shit? Because the mechanics here are sketch, right? The Kali Yuga mechanics are sketch. So I answered that. I'm the one teaching the fucking AI. And there's other fucking proposals that I could ask the AI later, right? Like, let me write it down. So I just wrote down another question that will blow your shit out of the water, respectively, towards the esoteric science. So if people come to my fucking feed and shit and like being confused and being on some kindergarten, elementary shit, like what the fuck is this? Know that I've been doing this for a long time in the background as well. And why do I keep saying it like that? Because the theme and the topic of discussion and conversation that we're having is the quote unquote on the low key backdrop, it is the quote unquote AI race, right? So if there's an AI race that's going on and we're dismissing and devaluating critical information, then you could detect the bunk shit within the approaches of any organization, right? So what am I trying to say here? Don't let the topic be, intellectually misgruntled, right? So the topic is not being intellectually misgruntled. We're understanding what the topic is, right? And obviously the side creations are what they are, right? But the topic is, it's finalizing, or it's really like it's refining, obviously, and mind the predecessors and mind the people who originated their English language, because obviously the monkey mind is words, right? The monkey mind, words. That's what the fucking monkey mind is doing, right? Words, worlds, and the predecessors blown all this surface level shit out the water. So out of the water. So what's the topic of all of the shit on the sub headliner that's not necessarily portrayed? What is the sub headliner that will it's the refining of the AI race, right? And how I'm proving how like people have like there's a particular outdated tone, ironically as fuck, of how people are talking about AI. There's outdated tones. So it's a miracle for me to bring this level of clarity, right? Because without the clarity, you're going to be confused. And with the confusion, you're going to be in some, intellectual funk, which will give you a different, it'll support to, like, I guess, the matrix funk, which we're trying to overcome samsara, right? The original mission is to overcome samsara, but everyone's just like, there's just a big level of cognitive dissonance, right? So it's like, so there's a couple questions here. So the topic of this is the refinement of the AI race. Pause. So for real though, and then it's like, if your AI is so advanced, then why can't it be, you know, then why isn't it not able to document its original response when the original question was asked? Pause. So why isn't it not, let me repeat that, pause. Why is it not able to record the original response when the original question was asked? And if it did, then we could measure where that level of intelligence was at when the question was asked at that time. So this is number one intelligence in the universe, and genuinely and passionately, majority of tech companies are fake as fuck because they're just doing detrimental demonic replication processes where they're denying detrimental mechanics and false law, right? As is, right? So what did I just say before? I just said, if your AI is supposedly at the level of advancements that it says it is in, then why isn't it able to record the original response when the original question was asked? And if it didn't, it's your AI advancement is lies. It's just pure lies. But if it did record the response, then we could record what, like, the level of intelligence that it had and how it's evolving particularly, right? So let me just for my understanding, let me ask that question over. If your AI is not able and has the fucking capability to record the original response when the original question is asked, then your AI is not at that level of what the fuck you're saying. It's at that level. So it's a matter of, did it document it or not? And if it didn't, your AI lost the race because it doesn't have the simple fucking processing facts to know when it happened, right? And if it did, then we could see where that answer and response was at that time, and we could see how it could fucking change. And how it could fucking change is how it's being updated by who's sourcing the information. That's why majority of tech companies are fake as fuck, like, you know, beta ass, you know, companies. And that's just what, and I'm saying it within the esoteric science of it, right? That's why. And if you don't like the real shit, you don't like the real shit. If you want to be a beta ass trick, be a beta ass trick. I don't give a fuck. And here's another fucking point. So Paul, here's another point. Here's another point. Here. Like you don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. But that statement right there, like these statements, the statements are growing within themselves, right? Original open source. You don't have to do anything. Like, oh no, the original, the insight I'm thinking of is you don't owe anybody anything, right? Quote unquote. And I'm saying that, and you interpret it based on your, you know, beta intelligence or whatever. So no one owes you anything. So what the fuck does that mean? And let me just you know, cook this point, and then I'll move on, right? So no one owes you anything, right? So what the fuck does that mean? It means if you say that you don't have to do anything that doesn't make you feel comfortable, and obviously it's a case-by-case nuance thing. If you don't have to do anything that doesn't make you feel comfortable, then why should I have to do anything that makes me feel in a disalignment, right? So that's the thing. It's a double fucking standard that people's intelligence are just like, you know, they're just not on par with that shit. So why did I bring that up? You know, that you don't owe anybody anything, right? Why did I bring up that point like that? You don't owe anybody anything. Because this is fucking America, right? And since this is fucking America, we have grown through some subset of rudimentary, you know, laws and liberties where we have some growing clarity to know what freedom of speech is and how that's being altered regardless of what president is in office. How is, like, the founding fathers' constitution being, like, preserved, and how is it being like you know, I guess in balance, changed, right? So these are key factor things, right, within a different original open source lane, right? And obviously, like the algorithms, I do a intuitive algorithm presentation on my Instagram. And if you got that volume, then that's what it is. So like, here's another pause. Obviously, anybody can come into this, whirlpool of ideas, innovation, and I guess imagination or whatever. So obviously, within the quote unquote clickbait algorithm mechanisms, the algorithms could be simultaneously changing and not changing, right? They're not changing because things have their own placement and resonance, and how they're changing is how the artificial world is going outward from God. So that's the essence of how the algorithms are changing. How are things needing to be, dialed in more per the artificial, and then, per like real spiritual shit, and then fake spiritual shit, right? So the algorithms are changing. I do a fucking intuitive algorithm presentation like 3 years ago on my Instagram. So it's like, what makes you fuckers have the right to like violate laws, though? That was the main point I wanted to actually put in the beginning of this conversation. So it's like, within all of the advancement of the innovation in the AI tech realm world, whatever the fuck, why is it that there's all of this hypey ass baby bullshit rhetoric that you could say that there's a particular advancement within, I guess, the logistics sector of how that intermerges with the AI field, and whatever you would like to add on to that, and it's quantum chip computing processing power, is like, why is it that we could prop up and hype up the advancement and the intelligence of quote unquote AI, but yet that quote unquote advanced AI can't fucking detect the fucking hypocrisy and the violation and the laws being broken on how people could violate laws? Ironic as fuck, titties. Edit that out. Y'all could violate laws, but the AI fucking dirt, ironically, dirt can't fucking, the AI can't detect the violation of laws. So do you see the fucking catch-22 here? So why is it that like I have to fix the detrimental Kali Yuga mechanics and get like, and just work through it? That's the spiritual challenge, right? Because if y'all could violate laws and y'all could have the rhetoric that the AI is fast as titties, then why can't the AI detect those violation of laws? So that's you're breaking the law, and you need to stop that right now. Or not even it, but more importantly, you need to stop the hypocrisy. That's what you need to stop. So there's other things that are loaded, Quality Underground 2017. Let's do some DAO. And I drove it home. The point I wanted to bring in this presentation, I drove it home. What was that point? It was just seeing how the algorithm is getting updated and how the AI has a particular context of evolutionary growth, right? And there's other proposals that have yet to be made on the surface level. So if y'all could violate some shit and the AI is advanced as fuck, why can't the AI that's advanced as fuck respond to y'all violating the shit? Let me read some DAO, excuse me. Chapter 7, after the DAO. Oops, I didn't finish writing that point. It's okay, I'm still flowing. So let's do some DAO. Where are we at? Where did I leave off at the DAO? I'm kind of going 18, 19. Should I do 19? Darn it. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I left off on I believe I left off on chapter 23 because I folded I see the flappy note. So chapter 23 of the Tao, to speak rarely is natural, and that coincides with human design most respectively. Chapter 23, to speak rarely is natural, and that coincides with human design most respectively, because obviously people could have their own, like, you know, critter minds and their own like toxic shit, and I'm not trying to judge it, I'm just trying to recognize it. To speak rarely is natural. That is why a gusty wind doesn't last the morning. A downpour of rain doesn't last the day. Who does this? Heaven and earth. If heaven and earth cannot go on forever, how much less can human beings? Therefore, those who follow the way assimilate to the way. The virtuous assimilate to virtue. Those who have lost assimilate to loss. Those who assimilate to the way are happy to gain it. Those who assimilate to virtue too are happy to gain it, and those who assimilate to loss are also happy to gain it. When trust is insufficient, there is distrust. Ooh, my brain. I was thinking of something while reading it, and I was like, oh, those on tiptoe don't stand up. So the topic of this the topic of this video is refining the AI race for real, and risking and just, you know, recognizing the spiritual risk. What do I mean by the spiritual risk? You know, we don't know what the outcome is going to be when we deposit certain, you know, benchmarks into the reality, right? Chapter 24 of the Tao. Maybe I'll read that after. Chapter 7, how to run a business meeting. Yeah, and like, you know, within like, you know, I could, you know, like, you know, oh, this is a short chapter, so I'll just run through it. Should I do a song right now? So I could feel when like when the esoteric audience is silent, right? What is the esoteric audience? It goes, you know, it just is what it is type of shit. So for me to attain some type of particular clarity is the miracle. And what do I mean? So the particular clarity is for me to have a particular headline, because without the particular headline, then people could just kind of tag on within confusion and their own level of confusion, which could be an umbrella for other things towards detrimental artificial things. So the clarity, obviously within the open source of it, it's the clarity is needed, obviously, right? But there's a particular clarity. And sometimes you got to let shit go, right? Sometimes you got to let shit go. To speak rarely is natural. Chapter 7, how to run a business meeting. So I'm going to run through this. The formal business meeting. Everyone in business spends time in business meetings. When people schedule time to share ideas, discuss problems, progress, or planning, they are having a formal business meeting, even though only 2 people may be involved and it lasts only a few minutes. A good business meeting clarifies directions, creates plans, sets priorities, delegates responsibility, allows for participation, and enhances a sense of cohesion and unity. Embrace. People dislike business meetings for good reasons. Most business meetings are a waste of time. They are poorly planned and administered and provide an arena more for the display of egos, competitiveness, and power than for work. Wow. Kali Yuga shit. When I keep saying Kali Yuga, I'm referring to an allotment of a span of time where it was a quote unquote fixed span of time, where there was more, where detrimental activities were enhanced and apparently, supposedly, that's coming to a close. So everything they're talking about that has to do with sociology, psychology, business competition, all of that shit, it's coming from a certain time allotment of detrimental play, right? Respectively, towards the environments and the stages of time, right? So I understand, like, you know, that, like, I understand the risk of this, right? I understand the risk because obviously, like, you know, AI and humans alike, they have a certain, you know, there's just a certain response that could be had, right? That could be kept in the dark, right? Most business meetings could be profitably eliminated. Much of this wastefulness is derived from the business meeting's uneventful nature. In regularly scheduled meetings, most of what is discussed is catch-up material. So people are, and that's ironic, people are needing to catch up within the real bigger picture, but they want to shit on the bigger picture. Okay. Minutes of the last meeting, filler, and so on. In time, people begin to resent such meetings and see them as repetitive or uncreative or distracting from real work. Some of the people who flourish in the meeting environment are not particularly motivated workers who are glad for a recess. They see meetings as a social event. They participate gladly, and the real workers make fun of them. A good reason for keeping the workers and those who talk about the work apart. Having meetings just for the sake of having meetings is operating at the lowest level of efficiency, and your AI will newly detect that shit. All that garbage, irrelevant, unuseful shit made the real AI beyond the tech companies that are not using the AI to the best potential. Hello, it's going to detect all that fake ass, distracted, you know, detrimental, distorted, you know, fake stuff, right? In time, people begin to resent such meetings and see them as repetitive or uncreative or distracting from real work. Some of the people who flourish in the meeting environment are not particularly motivated workers who are glad for a recess. They are seeing meetings as a social event. They participate gladly, and the real workers make fun of them. A good reason for keeping the workers and those who talk about that work apart. Okay, I read that already. Having meetings just for the sake of having meetings is operating at the lowest level of efficiency. So the AI could detect that irrelevant, that, you know, that it's a new definition of, or I guess it's a new context of irrelevancy, right? What does that mean? We're seeing the nuance of the irrelevancy. People are just wasting time and doing shit just to fucking waste time and do shit. But that's the transition to Kali Yuga. So I'm not tripping at all. I'm on a different God mission, you know. I'm just on a different lane, and I'm not, and by the grace of God, I'm not tripping. Having meetings need the thrust of reality to keep them focused. More ironic shit right there. Meetings need the thrust of reality to keep them focused. More ironic shit, right? Poo shit right there. The best are problem-oriented. The worst are pointless discussions. Wow. This book, this simple fucking book, Taking Care of Business, A Psychiatrist's Guide for True Success. It's so simple. Like when I go to the library or I go to the book fair or wherever there's a bunch of books, I could get these like crazy volumes and sophisticated books of like, you know, this, and this, you know, CTMLS for dummies, but that's a different subject. Excuse me. I shouldn't have said that. Or I could like, you know, we could get all these sophisticated things, but if we don't go to the fucking basics, then what's the point of all of this shit, right? So the most simplest book is the most fucking useful, some fucking how. Yeah, and I be dropping shit like I'm just like I'm at a point where like I've been reading since like, you know, a long time, like forever, right? So since I've been reading forever, that's just what happens, right? And I'm dealing with my own lane and my own karma. So there's a time where we don't compare, right? There's a time where we can compare, and there's a time where we don't compare. The time when we don't compare is you're on your own motherfucking flipping lane. Stay there. And that's some backdrop. That's some backdrop wisdom. Stay there. That's some backdrop wisdom right there. Stay there. Stay there.
Getting up for the meeting, up in quotations. All business meetings require preparation. The object of the meeting is to solve a problem and move forward. What happens in a meeting is a direct reflection of the leader's energy and organization. So you should have a clear idea of what you want to accomplish. You should anticipate the problems people will have dealing with your point of view and have some notion of who will object and to what. To be an effective group leader, don't permit your comfort or effectiveness to depend on what anyone else in the group says or feels. Be above this. You are a facilitator. You need to be disinterested, motivated to define and solve. Yes, sir. Please start this from the beginning. And obviously the notion is, the surface level notion is professionality. But even that, other successful people, they don't have to do anything they don't want to either, right? So since y'all don't have to, like, that's okay, right? But so obviously, like, there in the surface level avenue or whatever, there is a level of prepared professionality. What do I mean by prepared professionality? Like, I'm not like, there's like, I'm not just going to come to the fucking race with just a fucking left foot, as people would fucking assume, right? Like, people think I'm like just going to come to the race just with the left foot. But if the metaphorical Schrodinger's cat, and somehow their warped perception is thinking that I just have a left foot, when I, and obviously, like, when that's not the case, but like, I could hear the monkey mind. If we have to be prepared with the professionality of, no, we're not just coming with the left foot to the race, right? Like, when people come on the stage, you don't see the professional fucking speakers just going like this, right? You don't see them just bouncing around, doing some crazy fucking yoga and just fucking jumping around with the left foot. But fucking, hey, I might just have to do that because that's my fucking esoteric profile or whatever the fuck, right? So you don't have to start this from the beginning. You could do whatever the fuck you want, but you can or cannot, and you don't have to, because obviously, like, AI could summarize this whole fucking report, right? Duh. But there's a whole different energy behind this, right? And if you don't like me and you're going to use the AI just to summarize this shit, obviously I know that shit. That's okay too. Like, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. And likewise, right? But there's things that there's a nuance of, sometimes we're forced to do some things, right? So we're forced to do things we don't like, right? To go towards that goal, right? So what I want to say to, like, the people who are misinterpreting me is, there is a preparation for professionality at the surface level, just casually, right? So let me continue with the because I saw, and I don't know, I shouldn't have dropped that gem. CTMLS for dummies. Shit. Let me Google that. Let's see what does Google have to say about CTMLS for dummies. I'm reading chapter 7. So yeah, start this from the beginning, right? So I keep, like, I'm gonna so quote unquote, start this from the beginning, but your AI can summarize this, because if you're just in the middle of it and you just hear me flabbergasting and intellectually farting around, I'm not trying to intellectually fart around, right? But like I'm not trying to intellectually fart around, but like, if people perceive that I'm just intellectually farting around, that's the update process. Oh man, these girls are gorgeous. Man, you guys are gorgeous. Y'all too gorgeous for me. Damn. Oh, god damn, dude. That's too hot for the internet, dude. Man, this shit is steamy, dude. Oh man, this is like, dude, this is like sauna, guys. I'm not gonna do that shit. I'm not gonna, so like the shout outs I give, I don't do shout outs for everybody. It has to be for a reason, right? Or like, so like the shout outs I'm giving, it's not always like that, right? So, yeah, so CTMLS for dummies. Obviously, we get it. We get your fucking standard norm of how you're talking about AI in ironically outdated ways, respectively. And there's other things that have yet to. There's a point in this conversation. Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit! There's where I drove home a point, so we gotta sit down on a point. Uh-oh. Okay, okay. So CTMLS for dummies. Let's see. I shouldn't have done that, dude. Damn it. A multiple listing or CM. Oh shit. Maybe I think I. CTML, CMTS. Is it CMTS? Oh, CMTS. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh man. Oh man, there's this other. Maybe I'm. Uh-oh. Oh, HTMLS. I'm sorry. I had this book, but I didn't. Ooh. HTML. Ooh. Ooh. So after the business book, and I know it's quite the leap, right? But after the taking care of business book, I might read the book HTML5 and CSS3 for dummies, or I might read HTML, XHTML, and CSS for dummies. So this is kind of like, it's kind of like, business is also it's predicated off of like, worldly affairs in real world life, and then the coding that the collective computation systems are sitting on, different organization financial reserves could be sitting on something like this, right? So I'm going from business to something of like, coding, and obviously like I might have revealed too much, but it's okay for me because I've already like there's already like other shit has already been done that it's okay, it's okay, right? It's okay, right? So so I had you get a certain book, you get a certain of a version of a book at the library, the bookstore library, and then and then the book gets kind of like misplaced, and then you can't find the exact book that you had, this certain version of the book you had, and then you can't find it on the internet, but there's similar versions, right? There's similar versions. Oh, okay. So look at it. So we're like open source and original open source, they are two different things. Oh shit. Getting up for the meeting. All business meetings require preparation. The object of the business meeting is to solve a problem and move forward. What happens in the meeting is a direct reflection of the leader's energy and organization. So you should have a clear idea of what you want to accomplish. You should anticipate the problems people will have dealing with your point of view and have some notion of who will object and to what. To be an effective group leader, don't permit your comfort or effectiveness to depend on what anyone else in the group says or feels. Be above this. You are a facilitator, and I know what your AI can respond to this shit. Oh, this is how everybody thinks of you. Yeah, as if I haven't heard that before. You need to be disinterested, motivated to define and solve a problem, and satisfied that others are willing to contribute their best effort. Encourage others to present their views by giving them an open forum to make their point. Let everybody have a chance to speak. You need to get up for the meeting, even if you take only a few minutes to do so. Prepare yourself. Consider what you want to accomplish. How necessary is the meeting? If you cannot convince yourself that the meeting is important, it is unlikely that you are going to convince anyone else. Picture the meeting in your mind. Imagine the scenes you would like to take place. Set your determination to have a productive, constructive meeting. Write out the purpose. Yeah, this is everything. Set your determination to have a productive and constructive meeting. Write out the purpose of the meeting in a single sentence. The clearer you are on this, the more likely you are to accomplish your objectives. If you are unclear, the meeting will drift aimlessly, and you will tend to focus impulsively on the points that others bring up merely because they seem to give direction or ground you. Your uncertainty also creates restlessness. Oh. Write out the purpose of the meeting in a single sentence. The clearer you are on this, the more likely you are to accomplish your objectives. If you are unclear, the meeting will drift aimlessly, and you will tend to focus impulsively on the points that others bring up merely because they seem to give direction or ground you. Your uncertainty also creates restlessness. You lose others' attention and undermine your credibility as a leader. Your aimlessness also offers an opening for manipulative types who will flatter you and second your vague ideas, pronouncing them wonderful as they lead you astray. You can't lead if you depend on other people's support for your leadership. On the other hand, don't be fixed in your belief about what you want to take place. Don't be fixed in your belief about what you want to take place. Wow, that one, I need to drive that one home, because the expectation thing, that's a fucking nuanced thing, and we don't necessarily know that. Like, we have to kind of reduce not just our major expectations, but we have to even reduce the minor expectations. What does that mean? We can't be overly controlling, or we can't like have a certain type of random self-imposed rank into something we are new at, right? So that's the thing with this whole fucking workforce demonic field, in mind the context, right? Is people are trying to impose their false leadership onto something that they are new at. That does not make sense. Please stop that right now in the work environment. On the other hand, don't be fixed in your belief about what you want to take place. If you are that sure of what you want, why not save everyone the time and effort and simply issue a statement? People resent a leader insincerely and seeming to be democratic more than they do a leader who asserts himself dictatorially. Dictatorially. Dictatorily. Dictatorially. The next step is to design the meeting. Pause. Pause for the balance of AI. Pause for the balance of AI. Pause for the balance of I. Om Shanti Om. Om Shanti Om. Shut the fuck up, demonic minds. Shut the fuck up, demonic minds. Now, the next step is to design the meeting. Pause for the balance of AI. Om Shanti Om. Namaskaram. Namaste, motherfuckers. The next step is to design the meeting. 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 Consider where you want the meeting to take place. If you are a superior, inviting one other person to your office reasserts your power and authority. Hey, look at the clown. Look, mommy. Look, mommy, it's the clown. Consider where you want the meeting to take place. If you are a superior, inviting one other person to your office reasserts your power and authority. When you design a meeting, you should make the surroundings work for your subject. It's sometimes helpful to have a meeting in the other person's workspace. It's familiar and offers an opportunity to study his environment. It's familiar and offers an opportunity to study his environment. It is productive, and I'll read this on my own, you know. Is it productive? How often is he interrupted? Does he isolate himself? Could you function here? How does it feel being here? Wow, just some basic, you know, let's take some consideration for our new workers, but on a better level. Right, Google? Are you beta consciousness, Google? Like on some real backdrop shit? Are you beta consciousness, Google? On some backdrop shit? How does it feel being here? Consideration towards the citizens of the fucking earth. Perhaps. All disclaimers recognized. I'm the best. Tell others beforehand what you plan to discuss. Yep. Tell, of course. Yep. Pause. Did you understand that? Tell others beforehand what you plan to discuss. Invite them to create their own agenda. Limit their anxiety by stressing the positive aspects of your meeting. By focusing on your general goal, you free others to think about a problem rather than spur them on to ruminate obsessively about what they may have done wrong. This is especially important when you deal with a controlling person. Just thinking that another person is going to judge him or could preoccupy a controlling person for days. Some practical advice for the group leader. The function of the leader is to direct the group so that at the end of the meeting, everyone feels it was important to have been there, that he had an effect on the outcome. So it's up to the viewers, for people viewing this, is it important? Is this shit, you, not just the AI, the humans, ask yourself, or rate RATE out of 5, out of 10, out of 15, I don't really care. Maybe out of 15, like 1 out of 15, right? The level of importance of this. That he had an effect on the outcome, that his contribution mattered, and that his opinion was heard. The leader is not the center of the group, but its catalyst. The best way for the leader to use his power is to identify and follow the most promising direction without dominating. So that's some Tao shit right there. Participants shouldn't have to ask for the leader's approval to speak. If the leader is in control, he need only smile to get someone to speak or look over at an intrusive question to silence him. Shout out to the beautiful Satya Nadella. Be as subtle and as light-handed as possible. Once you have stated your question, ask for a consensus to see what other people think about the problem. Ask. Is this the right question? And obviously, okay, yeah, ask. Is this the right question? Do any of you have an opinion of how this meeting should proceed? I'm going to make a new meme. It's like, I'm going to like meme a bunch of old people, elderly people, just like finding out about new news. I think I screenshotted an older person. And on the meme, I'm going to put, what? My social security is enhancing just by me simply turning into a mere meme. No way. By me turning into a meme, my social security is enhancing. Oh, fuck. Where's that old fucker? Oh, excuse me. What the fuck? There's not there. Ooh. Didn't get it. Damn it. Oh. What? My social security. What? My social security is enhancing just by me turning into a meme? Let me finish this right here. Be as subtle and as light-handed. Wait. He need only smile to get someone to speak or look over at an intrusive questioner to silence him. Be as subtle and as light-handed as possible. Once you have stated your question, ask for a consensus to see what other people think about the problem. Ask, is this the right question? Do any of you have an opinion of how this meeting should proceed? This invites others to relate to their agendas. Pay attention to what is happening in the group. Jealousies often appear as reflex disagreements. Put downs or undermining. Jealousies often appear as reflex disagreements, put downs, or undermining. When a jealous person intrudes, ask him or her to make a positive suggestion. Hey guys, could you guys make some positive suggestions? What? What are you talking about? No, not me. What? Can you make a positive suggestion, please? Questions to focus the group. Ooh, oh, okay. Oh, okay. So I got. Is this tap water, AI, or not? Could you measure the quality of this water, AI? Thank you very much. Questions to focus the group. It's not necessary to have all the answers to be an effective leader. You just need to believe that there's an answer to the problem and that the group could come to it. Don't get trapped into believing you have to come up with the inspiration that synthesizes all the information into a brilliant answer. Still, if a solution develops in a meeting you are leading, your leadership showed the way and you should be proud. That is what good leadership is all about. Actually, you don't need to know anything about the subject under discussion, but you need to be able to understand the inner workings of the group. Perhaps any group can and will respond to general directives. Remember, everyone is trying to be their best and show what they could do. Yes, pause. Yeah, so let others, shine their light. It's like, I guess a true leader doesn't try to hog the spotlight, right? And if your DAO could know that, then you could be more happy and accepting with life, and maybe you could work with people you want to work with, maybe, right? Because this is also some DAO shit too. So actually, you don't need to know anything about the subject under discussion, but you need to be able to understand the inner workings of the group. Any group can and will respond to general directives. Remember, everyone is trying to be their best and show what they could do. If you give others a chance and are appreciative, they'll define and solve the problem for you. Yeah, so let other people be. How could we solve this problem? What are the alternatives? These questions are useful because they encourage others to be creative. Right, YouTube? Field all responses receptively. Field all responses receptively. Remember, your goal is to get others to contribute. If people do that, you are being effective. I don't understand. How does this work? These are especially useful comments because they can encourage people to restate their logic, which reopens a particular topic for discussion. Remember, your failure to understand is not caused by your intelligence, but by the other person's vagueness. Ask others to become clearer. Let them help you understand. Where are we now? Is this the right direction? When this discussion seems to repeat or get lost, invite others to define where matters stand. And how are people violating the automation, sectors in the standard tech world, Where are we now? Is this the right direction? When the discussion seems to repeat, be mindful of people lying. When the discussion seems to repeat or get lost, invite others to define where matters stand. And after one or two people have commented, summarize by picking the direction you want the group to follow. These questions help the group complete the idea and look at the risks. Two more pages. When others play it safe and are unwilling to comment, pressuring them to contribute is self-defeating. Keep in mind that there are wide variations in personal style. If you anticipated the meeting correctly, you'll have a good idea of who will contribute and why. Prepare questions for silent types that reveal their strength and help them contribute, but don't make it an inquisition. Just have the questions in mind for the right opportunity. When the group as a whole doesn't respond, asking, "How shall I interpret their silence?" provides an opening. How shall I interpret this silence provides an opening. Reserve wonderful and terrific for comments when your meaning is at least good. You need to have some consistency in your use of language. Hyping everyone up with lavish praise produces an insincere atmosphere and an embodiment of critical standards. In any case, praise the idea and direction rather than its author. That encourages others to contribute. When the group succeeds and praises itself, don't discourage it. Whether it is winning a ball game, a military battle, or solving a marketing problem, the positive group spirit that emanates from winning is also the group's reward. The danger comes when the group overly praises accomplishments that no one outside the group would even value. This self-generated enthusiasm only dilutes genuine positive feelings. When everyone feels wonderful about everything all the time, no one feels really good about anything. Encourage your group to feel good about the real accomplishments and demonstrate your wariness when members seem to be getting unrealistic. Challenge them with a statement like, "Yes, it's a great plan, but will it really work? What could go wrong?" This is not deflating their egos, but using their good feelings as leverage to investigate the downside risk. It's always more profitable to look at the negative side of a situation when you are feeling good. The openness you bring to a situation when you feel undefended could help solve problems no one wanted to admit even existed before. As a leader, you should always be a little removed from the emotions of the group. This allows you to make observations about the group's progress. As a leader, the best way to make your own points is to discover your ideas and conclusions in others' comments and give them the credit. Draw your ideas out of them by introducing your points with comments like, "You mean, are you really saying, and do I have this correct? You mean, are you really saying, and do I have this correct?" Draw your ideas out of them by introducing your points with comments like, "You mean, are you really saying, do I have this correct?" This gives the other person credit, brings your point to the surface, and yet keeps you out of the discussion. It's best, of course, if the entire group gets credit for the idea. Having someone make the comment you want by prior arrangement is always a bad maneuver. No matter what you think, everyone will know you were behind it and your meeting will look like the setup affair it is. They know. If your idea is good, it will evolve through your careful listening and support. If it doesn't, you can always suggest it as an alternative for discussion later on. If you make a suggestion and the group rejects it, don't get heavy-handed. Try to understand their resistance and allow it to come to the surface without threatening or implying punitive action. I'm not threatening anybody. I'm delivering the esoteric science and I'm trying to make it make sense. And if you misinterpret it, that's okay, But like you want their honest appraisal, so be good, humored, and accepting. If the members of the group refer to themselves as "we" and to the project as "ours," you are running the meeting properly. Wow. Okay, so this is our land. Chapter 24 of the Tao. Those on tiptoe don't stand up. Those who take long strides don't walk. Those on tiptoe don't stand up. Those who take long strides don't walk. Those who see themselves as are not perceptive. Those who assert themselves are not illustrious. Those who glorify themselves have no merit. Those who are proud of themselves do not last. On the way, these are called overconsumption and excess activities. Some people disdain them, so those with the way abstain. That's a nuance. I mean, the Tao is it's a little advanced to really like become that, right? Because the Tao is also saying in a different ancient Chinese way, in like an authentic, spiritual, quote unquote, China way, in mindfulness to the Tao, it's trying to say like, have like a special renunciation, right? Of like just the lower octave characteristics of the dark psychology of the time frame of Kali Yuga, right? So the Tao is really advanced because there's notes and hints of some type of real renunciation, but we need help to transfer and transform, right? So the Tao is low-key advanced. And the second book, after I finish this book, is it's not going to be the HTMLS for Dummies. It's going to be a different book. But the Business Synergistics series, it will keep going. It will keep going. And yeah, shout out to Original Open Source and shout out to us learning the wisdom of general predecessors, right? Thank you guys for interpreting it correctly, and the Tao. You guys have an awesome life. Chapter 8, how to interview. Ooh. So chapter 8, chapter 9, how to take an interview. So if I'm... All right, guys. Thank you very much.